Hey animal lovers, my name is Marla Steele and I have been a professional pet psychic for 13 years, and today I'd like to talk to you about a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, as I am sure it is to yours, and that is the subject of our pets in spirit, or what I like to call our angel animals. And just like my friend Sunny Dawn Johnston in her new book says, the love never ends, and I'm here to tell you that the love never ends with our furry friends either. So I've been doing readings for many years, and I specialize in connecting people with their pets who have passed. It is such an honor for me to share that sacred space and to witness and be a part of that experience and that profound and sacred love connection that we have with our animals. And I will tell you that I do connect with people in spirit as well, primarily animals, but it really seems to hit us pretty hard when we lose the pets, and a lot of my clients admit that and feel a little guilt maybe, and sometimes shame, that they feel like they grieve more, or it's much harder for them to deal with losing a pet sometimes than losing a person. And I have a couple of theories why this might be so. First of all, our animals are pure, unconditional love. They just love us without judgment, whether we've had a good day or a bad day or we're cranky. They just look at us and love us, and that's priceless. So I know we're all working to sort of attain that level of unconditional love between people that they exemplify. So I think that's one reason it makes it challenging. They also are such a part of our daily lives and rituals. So for example, I think of just my cat and how he follows me around the house, and I open the fridge and he sticks his head in the door. And how many of you have pets that follow you into the bathroom or sleep with you? You know, a lot of you let your animal sleep in bed and even under the blankets with you. So we have such intimacy. You know, you take them for car rides or horses. You know, there's nothing like being one with your animal and riding with a horse too. So the real close connection that we share. They act as spirit guides for us. They're healing us. They're giving us all sorts of information when they are here, and that will continue, as I'll elaborate on, when they pass. And so that can be hard. They're in our day-to-day life. So yeah, I just want you to know that that will continue. And for me, it's a privilege to be able to give a person concrete, specific, easily verifiable ways that their pet is still showing up for them. So I want to give you some stories just so that it puts something in your reality of what may be happening right now with your animal friend in spirit, and maybe you didn't notice or didn't think it was possible. So if we could expand your consciousness of what is available to you, then maybe you can notice what's already there around you right now. One of my favorite stories is I believe it was a beagle dog. The first thing she did is come through to me, and she showed me she was blinking the lights and flashing it like Morse code, and she gave me this little scene that reminded me of two girls at camp with their flashlights, and they were just beaming little messages back and forth because they were being sneaky, but they were trying to communicate between their cabins. So I got all of that information in the form of just like a little video clip, and I had to say to the person, you know, I see your dog blinking and flashing lights like she's trying to give you Morse code. So does that mean anything to you? Because I believe she's messing with your electronics at home. And she laughed and said, absolutely. Her dog was deaf the last couple years of her life, and she had to use a flashlight to blink to her, to call her to the door, to go out and to go in. So that was her signal. And indeed, since she had transitioned into spirit, she had been noticing lights had been flashing. Now I've had other animals mess with the garage door, or I had one in particular, and the person was aware of this, a little dog that they couldn't put the water bowl away after she passed. They had to leave it out for a few weeks because it was just too much to let go of all at once. So they left the bowl out, and for every day for about the next week, in the middle of the afternoon, they noticed little water droplets, and this dog was a particularly sloppy drinker, and that's what she would do. She would drink just a little bit and then trail drops. So that is also a sign, a very physical sign that they're coming through. We all talk about feathers, you know, that happens with people as well as animals. I'll give you 2 quick feather stories. One client, I said, your dog is sending you feathers, and she said, no, haven't gotten any. And I said, well, now that you're aware, just pay attention. Within 20 minutes of our phone call, her coworker walks into her office and she's got a feather on her shoulder and doesn't even realize it. And ever since then, my client was finding them on the doorstep, in drawers at home, everywhere. Now, I was telling this story when I was teaching a class about connecting with our animals and spirit, and we did an exercise where the students had to ask for a sign, like, what way is your pet going to try to come through for you? And one student did get, my pet's going to be sending me feathers. Well, when the class was over, she went out to her car, opened her locked car door where the windows were up, and right there on her seat was a giant feather that was not there when she came to the class first thing in the morning. So she was super excited and had to come back in and tell me about that. So that's a feather story. Now, they'll leave coins, they'll put songs on the radio, or they'll sing songs like Inside Your Mind that you can hear. I've heard all of those. Here's a few more unusual ways that they've come through. I had one come through in melted butter. The butter patty on the piece of toast morphed into the shape of the dog. I've had other dogs and horses show up in artwork. I've had somebody had a mystery carving on the beach. They had a beach house and they had to help their dog pass, and when they came home there was this whole carving in the sand that just seemed to look like their dog's face, and nobody else knew at the time that they were doing this with their dogs. So it was pretty bizarre how that'll happen. They'll also come in clouds, like clouds will appear to morph and change. So there's all sorts of ways they can come. Now, they can just flat out appear and you can see them. So I find if you're looking in the rear view mirror of a car or a makeup mirror, or a lot of times out of your peripheral vision, you're more likely to see them than straight on with your everyday regular eyes. But that is possible. So I've seen it with my own animals in spirit, and I've certainly seen it with my clients, and I'll validate for them. I will say, you've heard them or you have seen them, and they're saying, yes, this is real, so please do not doubt yourself. And so those are just some ways they'll come through. They'll also come through in dreams, and I would like to do a little exercise with you about that, helping you set up the dream space. For people that are having a hard time connecting to your animals and spirit, I would say that the most common reason why that is the emotions are still way too raw. So if the pet passed recently and you're obviously very emotional or super attached to receiving a message you get, you're holding on so tightly you can't get it. A lot of times, I will say they are coming to you in the dream, you're just not able to remember it. So trust that it's happening. But a lot of times you'll find that they're visiting friends and family members and giving them messages. So some people will get frustrated and say, well, why are they getting it and I'm not? Well, it's not that you're not. It's just probably so overwhelming to all the layers of the psyche for you to process it at that moment. So a couple of things you can do. You can ask your angels or your pet to help lift some of the grief or the excess emotions off of your shoulders and out of your heart. You could go sit by a stream or take a warm bath or go connect to a tree or a spot in nature and just ground some of that energy and just trust that they are coming through, and let go a little bit. Just let go of the attachment, and I promise you're going to get your sign whether you're asleep or awake, but they are there. I I could go on and on about all the ways that they're healing you, working on your back, your hip. I had a client, animal, tell me she needs to go get her heart looked at. And sure enough, my client did, and emailed me a week later and said she was on track for a heart attack, and they got in there pretty early and got some things squared away. So she was really grateful for the session, but more so for her animal that always looked after her health. They look after you in the car. They will really help protect you from spirits. So let's set up the dream space for you, okay? So here's what I like to do. One of my favorite things is to ask the animals, what is it like where they are? So I will tell you in my experience, they're not feeling pain. They'll show me a lot of things, like they'll show me the animals that they've reconnected to. Oftentimes, as I'm doing the reading, I'll say, oh, the black lab that you had before is there, or I see an orange kitty. Sometimes I'll even get the name of the animal. Like I said, oh, Lucky's here, and you called Lucky in to help. Now, I didn't know they had an animal named Lucky, but yes, indeed, they did call that pet in to be there for their animal when it was their time. So the other animals are there too. And when we do this exercise, you might be surprised. You might be intending to connect with one pet, but another one will show up. So just be open and receptive. So let's program yourself to have a dream about one of your pets. And I like to start with just creating a heart connection. So I do that by taking a few breaths, and I'll close my eyes and just imagine the breath going right into my heart. And that as I exhale, I'm creating a beam of light that's connecting to the animal, whether they're here or in spirit. And then as I inhale, I just imagine that I'm able to draw their energy and their breath back into me, and that we form this nice sort of infinity loop, heart to heart, where we're connected through all time and space. So try that. And in that space, start thinking about a favorite memory you have of theirs. And maybe it's an activity you did together. Maybe it's just hearing a purr, or the little kitty with his face tucked right in here. Maybe it's the feeling of cantering on your horse, and that power and that impulsion and that freedom. Whatever it is, use as many of your senses as possible and just recreate that moment or two. And then I want you to imagine just sending it to your animals. So just like you would send an email, almost hit enter, and then you're releasing that over to them. And you can even put it out the question of, you know, what's it like in your world now? Oftentimes it's a lot like what it is here, but the colors might look a little different, or they'll show me the big green field that they're running in. And especially if they have limitation in their body and some pain in their body, they'll show me running and jumping again. So keep that in mind. They can come to you at any stage of their life. So maybe you'll see them older as they were before they passed, but a lot of times you're going to see they're going to look like about 2 or 3 years old, and they're going to be full of life and energy. Okay, they don't want us to get hung up on the brief part of time where they might have been older or in need of excess care. They want us to remember sort of the totality of their experience and across lifetimes. So we're sending them a memory, we're breathing into the heart, and we're letting that memory go to them. The next thing I want you to do is bring a journal by your bed and intend to have a dream about them tonight, and also intend that you're going to remember that dream experience when you wake up. Okay, so you have your journal by your bed at night with your pen. So first thing in the morning, before you even open your eyes, before you roll over, before you wake up your body, I want you to do a little bit of a review. So just scan your dreams and just keep breathing and stay in that relaxed state, because as soon as we open our eyes and as soon as we start moving our body, we start to lose some of that information. Now, some of you may get a verbal message message. You may hear something specific from your animal. Some of you may receive a symbol, or some of you may just experience a scene. One of my favorite dreams that I've tapped into in client sessions is what I call the healing pond. I've probably had this come up in about 7 or 8 sessions so far, where the pet takes the person out of their body in the dream state, and they take them to this very special magical pond in spirit, and it's almost like they dunk them in the water, or they sit by the water's edge and have them put their feet in, but they just connect and they help the person release some excess emotion. It's a really beautiful dream that I've witnessed for my clients, so that's possible. And I want to leave you with, and we want to always thank them. So any attempt to communicate, thank them in advance that they're there, still loving, guiding, healing you. I could go on for hours, but that's a good start. That gives you an exercise to do to connect with them in the dream state, where we get the conscious brain out of the way, where you can be open and receptive. So I am wishing you and your animals and spirit many heartfelt connections and lots of love to you all.